All right. So marry, shag, kill. Gent Sense, Cubano, Jeremy Fragrance.
Oh man. Okay.
So the man, the myth, the legend, Stephen from Redolessence. Welcome.
Hey, how's everybody doing? Hey, Derek.
Hi. So really excited to have you on. Um I know we've been talking for quite a while now, and was super excited when I brought this up and you agreed to do it. I'm really happy that we can do this, and can kind of delve into maybe some of your background and what drives you to create, and the history of kind of how this all came to be, and maybe take a peek behind the curtain in your background a little bit. Um,
Of course, I would love that.
yeah.
Absolutely.
Um, so I've been watching you for years, and I feel like I know you, even though this is our first time talking face to face. One thing I'm curious about is, how did posting to YouTube start for you, and what was the inspiration behind it?
Yeah, that's a fantastic question. You know, I think it goes without saying that this is something that I never imagined I'd be doing. I think, I've always been a avid fan of fragrances, and even when I was in high school, I had about 25 to 30 bottles in my collection. Like I was the teenager wearing Paco Rabanne Pour Homme and Givenchy Pie and Le Male by
Yeah.
Jean Paul Gaultier. And I think I remember one day I was just Googling like most complimented fragrance.
Mhm.
And then I encountered base notes. And then I discovered Fragrantica. And then I noticed that people were reviewing fragrances on YouTube. And I said, well, this is a very niche thing. Like, who does fragrance reviews? There's no smell-o-vision. Like, people watching the reviews still have no idea what it smells like,
Yeah.
aside from you maybe, verbalizing a few notes or whatnot. But then I said, you know what? I have a passion for this too. And I want people to know that I exist. I want people to know that I'm out there and that I'm as fragrance crazed and obsessed as many others. So I
Mhm.
just turned on the camera one day and I posted a review, and it was a review of Prada's Infusion Dum. And I mean, that fragrance has since been renamed and rebranded, but I just remember putting the video out and people were watching. And I was like, wow, this is weird. Like,
Mhm.
people are actually taking an interest in it. So then I just got really excited to record more videos. And that's how it all started 12 years ago.
Wow, that's so cool. Yeah, I know for myself, like I started obviously just a few months ago. I've only been doing this for about 5 months now, and
It's wonderful. Yeah.
people like yourself really laid that foundation for someone like me to come in and put my own little twist on it. But long before I ever thought about posting on YouTube, I had your videos and quite a few others that I would um, always go to and watch, just to excite me. And you have no idea how many bottles I've bought over the years watching your videos. And when you describe
Thank you.
things, you have this ability to sort of, um, it's almost like you can smell it, even though it's not right in front of you. And I think that's what's so cool with what you do. And that's something that I strive to do. I strive to kind of paint a picture for people so that they can understand and appreciate what I'm discussing, without having that fragrance in front of them. And yeah, so thank you for really giving me the opportunity to do things like that. And I think it's such a special gift. So that's so cool. Um, so where did the name Redolessence come from? I know it's quite a unique name. It's not something you hear every day, but the one thing I do know is that when you hear the name Redolessence, it immediately brings you to your content. You are Redolessence. So where did that come from?
First of all, thank you for the previous praise. It
Yeah.
means a lot to me. It's very flattering to know that, my videos do get watched and people take some kind of value from them. And it's just me being passionate and, sharing my love for fragrances with the world. So if anybody watches even a minute or two of it, it really means a lot to me. The name Redolessence. So I think I was just, a kid in my early 20s, thinking I was clever, and I thought about a couple different words that are associated to scent. The first of which being redolent, and redolent means having a scent. If something is redolent, that means you can smell it. And essence, I guess there's a duality of meaning. It could mean the epitome of something, as in, the essence of something. Or if something possesses an essence, it means it has a smell. Yeah. So for me, I guess subconsciously, I was also thinking about, sorry, you might hear my dogs barking in the background, but such is life. Yeah. I was also thinking about the brand Hermes, and they have a collection called Hermescence. So I guess subconsciously, I tried to connect redolent and essence, and it's a portmanteau. So it's a combination of two or more words. So I came up with Redolessence, and, maybe I should have changed it down the line, because I know it's hard for people to smell and it's not super memorable, but it always stuck with me.
Yeah, I would actually disagree. I think it is super memorable because it's such a unique, like, honestly, when I first saw it, I thought, oh, that has to be a word, right? That has to be a word somehow associated with fragrance. And then, going through Google and everything, every time you type that word in, you were the only one that would ever come up. So I think it's pretty cool that you have that sort of branding, per se. And really, that was something I strive for when I created my YouTube moniker or whatever. I wanted to have something that was uniquely me, and a fragrant state of mind was sort of like a combination of my love for hip hop. So Nas put out a song on his first album called A New York State of Mind. And, I thought, oh, well, a fragrant state of mind. I think that's kind of matches my personality a little bit. So
that's awesome.
That's sort of where that came from. But yeah, it's super important to, have something that kind of represents you. And I think Redolessence is just one of those things, it is you. So that's super cool. All right. So tell me a bit about your life behind the camera. What do you do for work outside of YouTube? I know you're married with a daughter. How do you balance work, YouTube, and family life?
Oh, that's a really good question. Sometimes I feel like I can't manage everything. It does get kind of overwhelming, as I'm sure you can imagine. And, just being a full-time father and husband is very difficult. Aside from YouTube, I would say the bulk of my time is dedicated to doing YouTube. Lately, I've been trying to just get out more, maybe go to the park, take some walks, just be a bit more active, because if you're sitting in front of a computer all day, then you don't really have the opportunity to, put yourself out there. And, I certainly don't want my health to decline. But aside from YouTube, I do a little bit of freelance writing just for fun. So that keeps me busy as well. But YouTube is really the bulk of, I guess, my fragrance career. It's something I've been doing for 12 years now. And I guess there's just something so cathartic about getting in front of the camera and just suspending reality and saying, you know what, in this moment, I'm just going to focus on talking about fragrances, what I love about them, how they make me feel. And I love just having that ability to suspend reality and just be in the moment. But, typically I try to get the bulk of the work done during the week. Yeah. This way, when the weekend comes, I can hang out with my daughter. I can spend some time with family. And she also loves going to the park. She loves riding her scooter. She likes playing on the jungle gym or whatever. And so it's hard, as I'm sure you know, because you have a family as well, of course. But it's really hard to balance all the time. But somehow we always find a way to make it work.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's super cool that you have the freedom to sort of be a full-time dad. And for me it's a little different. I know I have a disability, and it's hard for me to work anymore or do anything in that capacity. But YouTube was really the thing that sort of took me out of that, shell, and allowed me to, express myself. And it's so cool when you can really invest a lot into creating this brand and this um, representation of who you are on the internet, as well as be able to be a father and be a husband. And it's definitely more valuable than I think a lot of people realize, and so I think
Absolutely.
that's super cool. um, how involved are you still with Navitus and the perfume brand? And I know that's something that you were doing for quite a while, and I was exciting to watch your videos promoting the brand and kind of getting that going and everything. So how involved are you still with that? And where is it today opposed to when it first started?
I think we're still doing our thing. I'm still highly involved with the brand.
Yeah.
The last fragrance that I released, though, was last December. So it's been about 6 months now. And that's a fragrance called Xenial. And it's a collaboration that I did, as I'm sure you know, and perhaps some others know. It's a collaboration that I did with Max Forti,
Yeah.
who's also a content creator, and he also founded Scent Explore. So it was the Scent Explore exclusive fragrance. And we wanted something that was kind of dark, vintage, perfect for the winter time, long lasting, but with some aromatic attributes.
Mhm.
So there's a lot of geranium, lavender, clary sage, there's some resins, there's this tobacco dried down, there's this unique note of hay in the base as well. So it's a very different fragrance, very unique. And it usually it usually turns out that I work on one fragrance per year,
Mhm.
just because it's really hard to do anything more than that nowadays. And whatever I pour my time and attention into, I want to make sure that it's the best expression of what I have to give in that moment.
Yeah.
And so, initially when the brand was launched back in, I mean, I started working on it in 2018, but the fragrances were launched in November of 2019. We released 7 fragrances concurrently.
Yeah.
So that was a lot. It was a lot to sort of juggle and cover on my channel. And, people were curious about one, but not the other, and vice versa. And it just became a bit overwhelming initially, I would say. So then, since then, it started with 7 at once, and then 3 at once, and then
Mhm.
another 3 at once, and then just one. So I think where I am right now, if I'm going to release another one, it's just going to be one. But one thing that I love that the brand has done is that they've realized that there are a lot of other really passionate individuals in the community and in the industry, um, who know so much about fragrances. So, it's about welcoming others into the brand
Yeah.
and allowing other people to collaborate and to really express themselves in this olfactory mode where, they kind of take a stab at, if I were to release a fragrance, what would I make it smell like? And so since then, we've collaborated with Aisha, who has a channel called AI the Great. We've collaborated with, Gabby from Gabby Loves Perfumes. We've collaborated with Karina, so many incredible people. And so it's been really wonderful to see the brand grow throughout the years. And the next endeavor is we're going to be at Cosmoprof in Las Vegas in July.
Mhm.
So I'm gearing up for that, and I'm very excited for that. So now it's just about, I think, increasing the brand's visibility,
Yeah.
because I think for the most part, people on YouTube have heard of us. So now I guess it's kind of entering the beauty world, the cosmetic world, and, trying to branch out, if you will.
Yeah. That's so cool. And I'm gonna link down below where you can get your fragrances as well. That's
Thank
so
you.
Yeah. All right. So, I heard through the grapevine that you wore Creed Aventus on your wedding day.
That's right.
So, quick question: if you were to renew your vows next week, what fragrance would you wear? Would it still be the Creed Aventus, or do you think you have something different to wear this time?
That's a great question, Derek. I think one of the reasons why I love Creed Aventus so much, and we all know it's no surprise at this point that it's a very polarizing fragrance.
Yeah.
Some people love it. Some people say they get so many compliments with it. Other people say, I don't see what the hype is about and it smells generic and blah, 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 blah. But I remember smelling it for the first time in 2010 or 2011 and just falling in love with it. And I said, I know I'm going to purchase it one of these days. And when I started thinking about it, I'm like, not only is it my most complimented fragrance, but it really ticks off all of the boxes. Yep. You can wear it any season, any occasion. It's modern, it's professional, it smells good, it's mass appealing. And I think in that moment, it was just, everything was cool about it. The aesthetic of the bottle, the name Aventus, which I've been told, I'm not sure how accurate this is, but it means success in Latin. And just a little fun fact in there, but I know on the bottle is Napoleon. And, he's riding a horse. And this is kind of funny here. Hold on, I'm just going to go off camera.
Yeah, go ahead.
I have a statue of Napoleon.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Or a bust, I should say. And the only reason I purchased that is because I did a DNA test through 23andMe.
Yeah.
And I think it said that I shared the same maternal haplogroup with Napoleon.
Oh, wow.
So he's like a distant ancestor. And I said, well, that's pretty interesting. So I said, you know what, I'm going to wear Creed Aventus. So I'm sorry to deviate from your original question. But you said, would I still wear it? And I totally would. I still have the same love for Aventus, the same affinity for it. And I still wear it to this day. I have a Creed branded travel atomizer that I carry with me on occasion, and I wear it to church on Sundays, and I wear it quite often. I still love Aventus very much.
Well, it totally is a super versatile fragrance, I think, and it's definitely, I think it's cool that you have this attachment to it, because I myself have attachments to fragrances. I think it's no secret on my channel that I have an affinity for Acqua di Gio. It's just something that I don't think it's because it's a super unique or high end or anything like that. It's the memory that it evokes for me, and I think it's the similar to you with Creed Aventus. It's that emotion that it evokes when you wear it, and I think that's super cool.
It's beautiful how fragrances have that ability to transport us to better times, easier times, less stressful times, etc.
Yeah, totally. I think that's, and that's why I think for me, like, once again, going back to the name of my channel, A Fragrant State of Mind, for me, it really is a state of mind. It's a sort of like, evokes emotion, it evokes that sort of visceral reaction when you smell something. It really, it's like daydreaming, the moment you smell it, it brings you back to a certain place and time in your life. Even something you've never smelt before, somehow often has the ability to evoke some kind of memory, and
you're right.
I think that's what's so special about fragrance. Anyway, for me, it really is a very special thing. And anyway,
I agree.
Sorry for going off on a tangent, but all right. So this next question is kind of, I think, something that I think I'm super curious about, and I know a lot of people watching might be curious about. But what are your thoughts on the state of fragrance content on YouTube and TikTok today? Clearly driven by the rise of personalities like Jeremy Fragrance and his sort of larger than life personality. Do you feel that it helps or hurts the fragrance scene, given the sort of superficial popularity that is created with mostly young teenagers and things like that? Do you think that this is a healthy thing, or do you think that it might be hurting the scene in a way?
Oh, wow. That's a really good question. So it's certainly not hurting the industry.
No, not the
The
industry at all.
perfume
Yeah.
industry, it's a multi-billion dollar industry. There's so much money that they're making, and there's a lot of money to be made. And so I think any fragrance content on any respective platform is going to be really helpful for the industry. And so I'm sure they're happy about it. Um, so the first thing that I truly love is that, we've seen teenagers, I suppose, have a variety of different hobbies, and a lot of them can get into collecting Jordans and sneakers and, really expensive accessories of the sort. And so seeing them kind of get into fragrances is something that was unheard of a decade ago. It used to be that the trend was you wear Axe and Tag and Bod and one of these, body sprays, and, you're in a gym room locker or something, and then you see there's a can of Axe Phoenix or whatever in there. But
Yeah.
now it's like you hear about teenagers and young adults wanting to buy Xerjoff and Parfum de Marly and Creed, and it's like, wow, where did this come from? Like, I didn't even discover niche perfumes until I was in my early 20s. So I think it's a really humbling experience, and I think it's great to see that a younger and younger demographic is getting into fragrances. And I think that's primarily driven by TikTok. I think the most active demographic as far as age group is concerned is between 13 and 17 years old. So I think when they're digesting that content and they're learning about Xerjoff Naxos and Creed Aventus and whatever, I think it's really great to see that, it's great to see that diversification of, content and the digestion of it. Now, I think going back to your question, because I didn't want to gloss over this, is you said the superficiality, and there's so many different personalities on these platforms. And, I think we all have very different ways of expressing ourselves.
Mhm.
So I think a lot of us are kind of like, hey, I'm into fragrances and I dress well and I like to take pictures and I do this and I do that. And I think that's awesome. A lot of us might take a more comical or humorous approach. We might like to, throw bottles up in the air, maybe break a bottle on camera. So I think it's really cool to see that everybody kind of does their own thing as far as the expression of their personality is concerned. For me, it's always been maybe trying to take more of an analytical approach,
Yeah.
just because I've always had people say to me, don't all fragrances smell the same? Why do you have so many? Like, they can't smell that different from one another. So I think for me, subconsciously, I kind of put myself out there to try to prove to people that no, they do smell different. They're comprised of very different ingredients, and they have different aroma profiles, so on and so forth. But I don't think any of it is hurting the community. I think the viewership speaks for itself. Mm-hmm. So even if somebody is out there just kind of, being funny or taking a more comical approach, if their video is getting 400,000 views, then it's like, clearly there's an interest for that. And you see the saves, you see the likes, you see the interaction. So it's like, well, good. I think fragrance is a form of escapism, but I think also watching fragrance reviews is a form of escapism. So whatever problems people are dealing with in their life, if they are getting a little solace or respite from watching fragrance content, whether it be more playful or more analytical, more serious, I think it's doing the world a favor. So I think it's great.
So I wanted to touch a little bit on your relationship with Carlos. So for a lot of people that might not know, Carlos was, he had a channel here on YouTube called Brooklyn Fragrance Lover. And he's someone that you collaborated with for a long time. And I know he passed away, and I know it affected me, and I imagine a lot of his viewers greatly, to lose such a passionate force here on YouTube. And I can only imagine how it affected you. But what I'd like to do is, can you share maybe 5 things about Carlos that people may not know about him, that may surprise us, or kind of help us peek behind the curtain a little bit on your relationship with him?
Oh, wow. That's a great question. And yeah, I think he left a big hole in the community when he passed away, because, he had his own quirky identifiable idiosyncratic personality,
Yeah.
where people knew him for his short and sweet reviews. And, you know, he was always very passionate about fragrance. And if there was a fragrance that he loved, you can tell that he loved it.
Yeah.
You know, like there was Black Orchid, and you can see just the passion in his eyes when he reviewed that fragrance. And I forget the name of it, but there's the one in the gold bottle, and I think it has rum and ylang-ylang in it. And he was so proud of himself because he used a phrase in the video, and it's not coming to mind right now, but something like floral soaked in rum or ylang-ylang soaked in rum. And he was just so happy. He's like, oh, I came up with that phrase. Or he would say, it doesn't, sometimes he would talk about a fragrance and he said it purrs, kind of like a cat would purr. And he was so proud of himself whenever he would say that. Or he's like, it doesn't shout, but it whispers.
Yeah.
And whenever he came up with these sort of figurative or metaphorical expressions, he was really proud of himself. But 5 things that I would mention about Carlos that other people didn't know. Yeah, I suppose I'll share a few stories. Is, you know, one, he was always very honest. And I remember he would call me sometimes really late in the evening, and, you know, we would talk on the phone for an hour or two. And, you know, he always had a lot on his mind. And one thing that I really appreciated about him is that he didn't sugarcoat. There was no fluff. He just, if there was something on his mind, something that was bothering him or something that he was dealing with, whether it be a personal situation or maybe an encounter that he had with somebody else, he was always very honest about it. And he always made sure to express what was on his mind as genuinely as possible. So I always appreciated his authenticity. The second thing that maybe people didn't know about him is that he was always thinking about fragrance. He was so obsessed. I remember we went to a dinner one time, and it was a dinner with a few people from the Fragrance Foundation. And one of the people that we went to dinner with said, oh, they're playing 80s music, you know, 80s as in the decade. And Carlos goes, 80s music? And he sat there and he was so stumped. I'm like, Carlos, you were alive in the 80s. Why is that so confusing for you? He goes, oh my God, you know where my mind went? He was thinking of a perfume boutique called Aedes de Venustas. And they have Aedes in the name, Aedes. Yeah. And he's like, they're playing Aedes music. And he just started thinking about the perfume boutique. So his mind was always on fragrances. So that's number 2. Number 3, there was an event that we went to that we were hosting, by the way. Yeah. And this has always been kind of like a funny thing between us. We were promoting a fragrance at this event. And at this event, he wore a totally different fragrance from the one that we were supposed to be promoting. Different fragrance, different brand. And the owner of that brand approached him and was like, hey, Carlos, you smell good. What are you wearing? He goes, oh, I'm wearing Nishane Ani. And it was just, you know, a totally different fragrance. He goes, yeah, but we're doing an event for so-and-so. Why are you wearing a different brand? He's like, oh, I just wanted to get people's opinions on it. So it was kind of funny that, you know, it was kind of a contradiction in that moment. It's like, but that's how he was, right? Like he was always thinking about fragrance and how do I, you know, take advantage of it in, you know, the best way possible. Yeah. Another thing is he loved collaborating. Yeah. And he and I have hundreds of collaborations on YouTube. And I was never good with keeping track of how many we've done. But I suppose this is fact number 4. He would always say like, oh yeah, we have over 300 collaborations. Oh yeah, we have over 400 collaborations. I guess maybe because he had a playlist on his channel. So he was always good at keeping track of exactly how many. I was always kind of the absent-minded one. But that's a really interesting fact about him. And the other interesting fact was he was always very giving. Wow. So even when I'd go to his house and I would smell a perfume that he really liked, or that I really liked, that he had introduced me to, he'd be like, oh, take it, take it, take it. I'm like, no, dude, it's in your collection. Don't worry, I'll probably buy it later on. He goes, dude, you want to borrow it or permanently, temporarily, it doesn't matter, just take it. I know where you live. I'm like, no, please don't worry about it. But he was always very, very benevolent. You know, he always realized that perfume was a thing that you shared, not just in terms of the content and the knowledge and the expertise and the passion, but also in a physical sense as well. And, you know, there were times he came over my house and he's like, can I keep this? And I was always the stubborn one. I was like, no, it's mine. And, you know, I'm a collector and I don't give away anything. And then eventually I did start giving him bottles. And I remember the first one that he came over and he fell in love with was You by Glossier. And he goes, but you don't wear it. You don't like florals, Steven. I'm like, all right, man, just take it. Just take it. I'll pretend I never owned it. And so, yeah, he was a good dude.
Yeah. I mean, he definitely was just this, you could tell his passion, you know. I think that's what really stuck out to me when I would watch his content. And as much, I hate to say this, and I hope you don't take offense to this, but when the two of you were together, he was always the standout star. You know, I think
I agree.
Like he was the one that I was like, I have to hear what he has. You know, I appreciated, and as much. Listen, you are absolutely a force, but he was just next level. You know, and it was because I know it affected him really deeply when he would smell something that he enjoyed, and I love that about watching his videos. And
Thank you.
yeah, so it's so touching to hear. So where do you see yourself and the Redolessence brand being in the next 5 years? Like, what is on your short list of goals in the near future? Like, what? I mean, it's crazy because you've been consistently uploading daily for like 12 years. I mean, every day, like clockwork. So every day, like clockwork, I'm seeing you uploading videos, and it's just consistent, you know. And I myself have a hard time being that consistent, you know. I'll go sometimes 2 or 3 days without uploading, or I'll just throw up a short just to say that I did something that day, you know. But you are consistently, you're like a machine, you know. So like, what drives you to do that, and really, where do you see this going in the next few years?
I think the content is just the result of me having so many fragrances. And I'm like, you know, I want to try to review as many as I can. I want to increase the library here on YouTube, increase the catalog. And I'm like, you know, sometimes I'll see certain fragrances in my collection and I'm like, well, this one hasn't really been spoken about too much. And, you know, I'm sure there's somebody out there who could fall in love with this. So I find myself just kind of reaching for those, and I'm like, okay, maybe I'll review this one today. But then I also need to be mindful that there's a demand for new releases. And so whether it be niche or designer, more often than not designer though. So I'll take that trip to Macy's or Nordstrom or whatever, and I'll purchase the new Hugo Boss or Christian Dior or Chanel or whatever, just because I know there's somebody who's like, I'm waiting to see if this one gets good reviews, and if it does, then maybe I'll check it out. If it doesn't, then I can forego sampling this one. So for me, it's always been like, there's no shortage of content. And like you said, yes, sometimes it does require a little extra push. There are some days when, you know, quite frankly, I don't have the energy for it. And there are some days when I don't even have the time for it. But I'm like, you know, at some point today, I gotta, you know, put 30, 40, 50 minutes to the side to record and edit this video and put it up. And, you know, it does take a lot. And there are some days when I'll be busy and I'll, you know, have a lot to do throughout the day. And then I pick up my daughter from school and, you know, I get home and I'm like, I got to get something to eat. And it's like, oh, do I really want to get in front of the camera right now? But I guess it's a promise that I made to myself. So I push myself as much as I can. And I just think it's great that, you know, we have this ability to express ourselves here on the platform, and it's open to everybody. And there's so many different types of expression out there. But yeah, for me personally, it does get hard. Now, the other part of the question is, what do I see the future being? Just for my channel or the community in general?
Your channel, like, what do you see Redolessence in a few years? Like, is there an end goal? Is there a next goal? Like, what does your future look like, do you think?
You know, that's a very good question. And truth be told, I never really stopped to think about it.
Hmm.
And perhaps I should. You know, I think some people have a goal, right? It's like, well, I want to hit 1 million subscribers, or I want to make this much money, or I want to have my own brand, or I want to do this and I want to do that. And for me, it's like, you know, this is what I'm doing today, and I'm going to try to do the same thing tomorrow.
Yeah.
And whatever opportunities fall on my lap, if I feel as though it's a good opportunity, I'll grab the proverbial bull by the horns. If I feel like it's not a good opportunity, maybe I'll discard it. But I think for me, I never really thought of an end goal, just because I always kind of imagined this as a marathon. Like,
Yeah.
hey, as long as I have the energy and as long as I keep waking up in the morning and, you know, God grants me another day of good health, then I'll keep doing it.
Yeah.
So for me, at this point, I have everything I could want. You know, I've creatively directed a brand, and I have a lot of fragrances in my collection, and I've created a lot of really beautiful memories with so many fragrances. And so I'm kind of at that point right now where I think I've accomplished everything I want to accomplish. So I'm not asking for anything else, but if a good opportunity comes to me, I'll evaluate it in that moment, and
Yeah.
maybe I'll take it.
Yeah. I think that's such a healthy outlook to look at things is, you know, it's not about the outcome, it's about the journey.
Yeah.
And I think too many people overlook that, you know. They think, oh, I'm always looking to the next big thing, or I want to achieve this or whatever. But it's really not about what you achieve. It's about, you know, the journey to that goal, and
Yeah.
you know, the day to day, the grind, the uploading a video, and you know, watching as the comments start to roll in, and you know, saying, oh,
Exciting.
TikTok's performing today and YouTube's not performing today, or it's the opposite and YouTube is performing and
Yeah.
TikTok's not. It's such a fun, exciting, really, like it's like a game, you know. It's like, is this one gonna hit, you know, like gambling, you know. You put the quarter in, or you upload the video, and then you wait for the wheels to stop spinning, and did I do a good job today, or you know, did I get 10 views, you know. So I think it's like that endorphin rush of just, you know, waiting to see what the outcome's going to be, and if this one didn't do so well, maybe it's the next one, you know. You know, coming up with the next great idea, you know. It's just, yeah, I love that about YouTube, and being a in this field, and it's so exciting, and I think you understand that too. I mean, is that what drives you as well, or do you think it's something different?
Yeah, I think the unpredictability has a lot to do with it. I think it creates a sense of excitement where
Yeah.
there have been times, truth be told, where I'll find myself working on a video for hours perhaps, and I'm so proud of myself, and I'm like, oh man, people are going to eat this up, they're going to love it, and it seems to be one of my most underperforming videos. That's the result of it. But there are other days when I just whimsically and haphazardly get in front of the camera and I'll record something, and it required very minimal effort, and that tends to be a video that blows up and it gets thousands of views, and it's like, well, how in the world did this stroke of luck happen? So I think nowadays I don't pour too much effort into the content creation or curation, for that matter. And sometimes I get myself in trouble because I'll do a top 10 list and people are like, how could you forget XYZ fragrance? And it's like, look, I really didn't give it too much thought, just because, okay, let's say I do a top 10 rose perfumes video and I forget to include Portrait of a Lady by Frederick Malle, but I've included a bunch of other fantastic rose perfumes. And it's like, look, the world is still spinning on its axis. You know, people are still going about their daily lives, you know, in the grand scheme of things, how consequential is me forgetting XYZ perfume in this video going to be? So just having learned that lesson a long time ago, my goal now is to just have fun, be expressive, share my passion without being too nitpicky. And I see people who, you know, have really high production values in their videos, and I see people who spend so much time curating lists, and people who are so deliberate about what time they're going to post their videos. And for me, I still haven't posted on YouTube today. I don't know what I'm going to post. It might happen in the next hour. It might happen right before I go to bed, right? But I'm telling myself, okay, I got to post something. And maybe I could be a little bit more precise about it. But one of the things that I've enjoyed lately is just kind of having that sort of lax, carefree attitude about it. And that's helped me a lot.
Yeah. I think what people don't realize, especially with the lists, is it's all relative, man. You know,
Mhm.
like there really is no top 10 anything with fragrances. Like it's top 10 in the moment, it's top 10 how I'm feeling today, top 10 this week, top 10 this month, but it it's so relative, which is why you see so many top 10 lists, and there's just such a wide gamut of what ends up on those lists. And I get a lot of
Yeah.
people that message me on TikTok or wherever, and they're like, "What's the best fragrance?" Like, what's good to you? What do you like? What do you enjoy? There is no best fragrance. There is no definitive, definitive top 10 tier list. It's really, it changes constantly. So when someone accuses you of, oh, well, you forgot this one or that one, it's like, well, yeah, but have you smelled these? Like there is no, that's what's beautiful about, and why I talk about so much in um my videos. I discuss the artistic value of fragrance opposed to, it just being this tangible thing. With any art, there is no, like, you can't describe the greatest artist of all time or the greatest painting of all time, because it's all subjective. It's what hits you in that moment. So
I couldn't agree with you more, Derek. It's kind of like if you walk into a pizzeria and you say, well, my favorite topping is pineapple, and
yeah,
somebody else says, no, it's pepperoni,
yeah,
or nobody's going to agree on that because it's subjective. You're saying, my favorite genre is hip hop and I love Nas, and I could say, well, my favorite genre is oldies and I love the Beatles.
yeah,
But it doesn't, at the end of the day, people's tastes are different. So I could make a video top 10 most complimented, and I'll say, Creed Aventus is number one, but somebody else, maybe with their skin chemistry and their pH and whatever, they have better luck with a different fragrance. So their list is going to be highly different from my list. And I think one of the most intelligent and emotionally intelligent things that we can do is just accept somebody else's list for what it is
mhm,
and say, well, this is his list, and I'm not going to be too swayed by it, and I'm not going to have too strong of an emotional response to it, because it is predicated off the knowledge that this is his list or her list.
right,
And, his or her tastes are not necessarily going to align with my taste 100%, but I'll use it as a nice sort of point of direction, where if I find myself in a Bergdorf Goodman or a Neiman Marcus, I'll try those fragrances. And if I like them, good. If not, that's good too, because there are thousands and thousands of other perfumes at my disposal for sampling. So I think that's a very good point. I think the subjectivity of fragrances is something that should not be overlooked.
yeah, yeah, I totally agree with that. And I think, too often, especially with the younger crowd, it's important to direct them into understanding that it isn't always about what's the best. It's about, like we were talking about, it's not about the destination, it's about the journey.
That's right.
Fragrance really is a journey. It's a journey every day, learning and discovering new scents. And I think as we discover them, it just deepens our love and our passion for those things. And I would urge any young person or anybody just getting into fragrances to open your mind a little bit and just appreciate what it has to offer, opposed to trying to, attract the most amount of people, or, whatever the end goal is for that. It's not about, being rich or appearing this way or that way. It really is about just enjoying it, you know.
I couldn't agree more.
Yeah. So well, I've got two more questions and then I'm done, I promise.
Okay. No, it's all right. I'm having
okay.
fun.
So this one is what made you decide to do an interview with someone like myself, a relatively small, not in stature, but in following YouTuber? You've been nothing but supportive and kind to me and super accessible. What drives you to be so humble and supportive to a community when by rights you've really sort of, I hate to say, you have this right to be up on the mountain, but yet somehow you still find a way to tally with us peons. You know what I mean? Like, it just seems like for someone who's been in this game for so long, you find a way to still support people like myself in this community. And I mean, where does that come from? Where does that humbleness come from?
Yeah, that's a very good question. I guess it kind of goes back to my philosophy with fragrances or anything pertaining to fragrance. If somebody comes over my house, for example, and they're looking at my collection, one of the first things that I tell them is, please don't ask me if you can spray something. If you're curious to try something, you know where the test strips are, you know where the fragrances are, pick it up, take the cap off, spray it, do whatever you want. And I've had people, family, friends, they'll say to me, oh no, but you said this one is very expensive, I don't really want to spray it. I'm like, I don't care. I told you, one of my rules is if you see anything that you like, please pick it up, spray it. If you want me to make you a sample, I'll make you a sample. So I think fragrance is this thing that should be shared with people, and when you think about it, even when we're wearing it on our own person, we're sharing it with others because they're smelling it when they're around us. So it's like, what is the harm of, like, I'll give you an example. A few months ago, I went to the Cheesecake Factory and our waitress fell in love with my fragrance. And I happened to be wearing Creed Aventus. And she goes, what are you wearing? It smells so good. And I had her follow me on Instagram because I told her, like, look, I make fragrance content. And I had the travel atomizer in my pocket. So I took it out and I said, would you like me to spray you? She says, yes, please. So I sprayed it on the back of her hand and she was like smelling it all day. And, it was just a really good, humbling experience. But, for me, I know a lot of people would look at like views and sub count and all these things. And, usually those things are referred to as vanity metrics. And, there's always going to be somebody bigger than you. And I don't view myself as any sort of celebrity. I'm not even a pseudo celebrity. I'm just, this guy that likes reviewing fragrances. Yeah. So for me, it's like, I'm not going to connect with somebody just because he or she has a, big following by some standards. I'm going to connect with somebody because I've spoken to them and I've gotten a pretty good finger on the pulse of determining if he or she is into fragrances or not, and you can tell, I guess, when people are doing something just because they feel as though it's the profitable thing to do in that moment. And it's like, oh, a friend of mine told me this was going to be a lucrative thing. And, there's money to be made here. And there's the TikTok shop and there's this and there's that and blah, 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 blah. And then you talk to somebody and it's like, oh yeah, I've been collecting since I was 10. And, I have this many fragrances in my collection and this is my scent of the day. So like, I think when you start talking to somebody, you're like, oh, this guy's like really into fragrances. And I think that's something that I picked up about you very early on, a few months ago when we started talking. So I could just tell that the passion was there. And, it's something that I think you can't fake. Yeah. I think when you get in front of the camera, because I've watched videos in the past where like there will be people who are no longer active for obvious reasons, but people who will kind of recycle other people's lists. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, oh, wow, like that list is eerily similar to this other person's list. And I'm like, and he doesn't own the fragrances either. He's just putting like a screen grab or a image overlay. But then you have people who are actually talking about the fragrances with a certain degree of understanding and knowledge, and you can tell that their personal experience is very much so embedded in their commentary. And I'm like, man, that person knows what he's talking about. So I always pick that up about you. So you have the passion, and yeah, for me, I'll connect with anybody. I'll talk with anybody. I'm not holier than thou. I'm no one, you know?
Well, that's not true at all. But I, you know, and to be honest with you, when we started talking, I think what stood out to me was just how you really have this ability to connect with people, and we were able to, you know, converse so smoothly about fragrance and about, you know, uploading videos and our passion and what drives us, and I think we have a lot of that in common, and it's so nice when you can connect with someone on that level, especially about something you're passionate about. And I know it's a blessing for me to have met you, and I hope that we can continue this relationship as things progress. But you know, I think a lot of people do get caught up in the sort of hierarchy of YouTube and celebrity status and everything, and I fall victim to that. Not so much in myself, but, you know, in idolizing these kind of larger than life characters on YouTube and saying, oh, I want to do that, you know. But what's important to me anyway is more so is the ability to communicate my passion with people and educate them, you know, because I'm still learning. So I want to share everything I've learned with people, and anytime I learn something new, I immediately want to share it with people. And it's because this is something that I love, and I don't have a lot of people in my day-to-day life that I can discuss these things with. So when I get online, I'm able to do that in a way that I don't feel like such an outsider, you know. And so once again, thank you for that.
You're welcome. I think you're right. I think that's the right attitude to take. And, you know, sometimes we can all be self-critical of like, you know, I've been doing this for X amount of years. Maybe I should have been here by now. Maybe I should have been at this many followers or this many subscribers, or, you know, I worked so hard on my latest video. It should have at least this many views. And I think sometimes we can fall prey to these expectations that we set for ourselves. And, you know, kind of like you said, even when I went to Scent Explore last December and I see people like Michelle and other content creators, and, you know, I'm kind of like starstruck, and I'm like, oh my God, like I've never met this person in person, but I've watched so many of their videos. And, you know, sometimes we can be really, starstruck in the moment when we see these individuals. But, you know, at the end of the day, I think it's about, you know, humbling ourselves and realizing that, you know, we're all here on the same planet. We're all doing the same thing. We all have, you know, this God-given nose on our faces that allows us to explore the depths of this hobby. And, you know, we just have to be grateful for all of the, all that we were permitted to do and all of the opportunities that come to us. And so, no, it's been absolutely a pleasure. And, you know, obviously, thank you so much for having me on your channel. It means the world to me.
Yeah, well, it means the world to me too. So I have one last question.
Okay.
And I apologize if this might throw you off a little bit. Marry, shag, kill.
Ooh, okay.
You ready? So, Gent Scents, Cubano, Jeremy Fragrance.
Oh, man. Okay. So, okay, I'm going to preface my response by saying a few things. They're all fantastic dudes. You know, I speak with Ashton on Facebook Messenger every now and then, and he's super down to earth. He's volunteered to send me fragrances, and he's just a really, really good dude, and probably the hardest worker in the fragrance community. Just the quality of his content and how active he is, and you know, he has 2 channels on YouTube, and I really admire him, and I think he's incredible. Jeremy is a fantastic guy. I spoke with him maybe 2-3 days ago, and yeah, and he's also really super humble, and you know, he's been to my house and we shot a video together, a couple videos, and he's also a really, really good dude. You know, we've crossed paths at least half a dozen times. In Cuba, I feel like I see him every other week because we're always going to an event together. So I'm sorry if this puts you in an awkward situation. No. Yeah, marry, shag, or kill. All right, look, I'm gonna marry Cuba just because he's a really good dude. I speak to him all the time, and lately he's been really kind to give me some really personal advice as far as content creation is concerned. So, you know, he's a good dude, and I have a lot of respect for Angel. He's really humble, down to earth, and you can tell he's real because the person you see on camera is the same person you see off camera. So that's kind of hard. Shag, I'm gonna go with Jensense, you know, because I kind of feel like he and I will, because he lives in, you know, another part of the world, and or the country, I should say, not the world. So I feel like we might cross paths maybe once or twice, depending on how it goes in this fragrance game, and then I might not see him again. And then I'm only gonna kill, just in the metaphorical sense, right? But I love him to death. I'm gonna kill Jeremy, just because I don't think he needs the likes of me. He's very yeah,
he can do it on his own, right?
He can do it on his own. He's done it on his own.
Oh, absolutely.
He's super successful, and you know, God bless him, and I know he's working very, very hard, and he's accomplished so much with his own brand and his social media followings, and you know, I always wish the best for him and for all 3 of these individuals that you mentioned, because they're all fantastic people. Yeah,
awesome. Well, thank you so much for being with me today, and being able to share every answer every question, and be so eloquent in that, and you know, I know my viewers appreciate it, and hopefully I can make something of this video, because it's like an hour long. So hopefully I can condense it down to the good stuff. I don't know how I'm going to do that, because it was all so good, but I really appreciate this. And
thank you, Derek. I appreciate it too.
Yeah, awesome. All right, well, I'm going to link everybody down in the description of the video to your channels, and like I said, also to Navitus, and I will also yeah, that's it. Definitely go check out Redolessence channel if you haven't already, and I hope you guys have a wonderful day, and as always, have a fragrant state of mind.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.